Welcome back to the Movie Draft House. I'm your host, Mark, joined by co-host Jeff.
Hey, Mark. Good day to you, sir.
Hello, Jeffrey. Ooh, I used your government
Still
name.
weird. It's always the thing. What's the Marcus, right? Is your name Marcus?
It's not. It's just Mark. Plain old Mark,
Just
M-A-R-K. Yep. You can call me whatever you'd like, though. However, don't call me late for this podcast.
You weren't. You were on time.
I was. Anyways, before we get into what we watched this week, because it's a new month, which means a new theme, but it also means new music here on the podcast. And this month, December 2023, we're giving a shout out to the band Oxymorons. They're an alt hip hop band, and so
You're saying things I like.
yeah, and the song is titled Moon Chasers, and it's got a really mellow vibe, but they're a bunch of rappers with like this alternative vibe to them, but they're from New York City. So catch the show notes to where you can hit the links to all their social media accounts. They're doing big things, so make sure you give them a like, a follow, subscribe, and we appreciate them. Allow us to use their music here on the podcast. Jeff,
Yes.
what's the theme this month?
The theme this month, friends, and maybe for the only time, as far as Christmas being something we do timely, is R-rated Christmas films. So think violence and horrible, horrible things.
Or just a bunch of bad words.
Yeah, or it could just be bad words.
Anyway, what did we watch this week?
Well, this week you picked, and so that means we watched something from 2020 called Fatman, starring Mel Gibson, Walter Goggins, Mariana Jean-Baptiste, and I think that's it. I mean, there's obviously more people, but none of which I recognize. This is directed by Isham Helms and Ian Nelms. We could have done this on sibling directors, maybe.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it runs for an hour 40, and I said it comes out in 2020. Now, had you seen this before?
I had seen. I saw it when it came out. Just because it came out during the pandemic, and so it went straight to streaming. And from the trailer, I remember watching it being like, "Oh, Mel Gibson as Santa, badass, let's go!" And oh, Mel Gibson as a badass Santa, let's go. And I remember really enjoying it because I'm a big Mel Gibson fan. I like Mel Gibson.
We know. We've established that on the pod.
But I'm also a big Walter Goggins fan. And
what else has he been in? Like, I know he's super familiar, but I can't. There isn't any one role where I'm like, hell yeah.
So he plays Uncle Baby Billy in The Righteous Gemstones.
He was in Django.
He was in Django. He's the bad guy in Justified, the television series.
Yeah. See, I don't watch as much television shows as you do.
He's just he's kind of an everywhere actor, but every time he's on screen, he steals the show. And I don't know if it's like the cadence.
He was in Lincoln. Okay, maybe that's where I saw him.
Oh, he was in Lincoln. I remember that.
Yeah.
But every time he's on screen, he steals the show. I don't know if it's his cadence of how he talks.
It's his teeth, man. It's his teeth. No, he's one of those guys who was born to play a villain, right?
Yes.
He's got that face where you just, man, if you could drop kick him, you would. And it's nothing against him personally.
But he plays
a lot of us need to look like that.
Yes. A lot of us need to look like villains. No, but he plays the villain character well, and I think that's why he goes to the well over and over again, because he can it's like this personification of every character that he plays. He just sinks into, right? And so you hadn't seen this, right?
No, so similar to you, though, I saw the trailers, but the trailers I found to be a bit of a turnoff. Like violent Santa movies, I feel like we've seen that before, and then there's one that came out recently. So the trailers actually didn't do much for me, and when you drafted it, I was like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't particularly excited or anything like that. So I never saw it until I had to.
Right. So answer this. Did this film surprise you?
I loved this movie. I really enjoyed myself. And yes, it did.
Surprising amount of heart, right?
It's not even, yes. I mean, yeah, there was a good amount of heart. Like the relationship between Kris Kringle and his wife, Ruth, is excellent.
Yeah.
Anytime she made cookies, I was like, I bet those cookies are fucking amazing. Like, can you imagine Mrs. Claus cookies?
Hey, you remember the scene where she makes these cookies and she doesn't let him have one, he steals one and he runs away?
Right. Yeah. There's little, like their relationship kind of makes the film. So what I loved, not just that, but one of the things I really loved was this grounded, like if Santa were real, this is how it would be, right?
But it's got a wild premise, right?
The premise is crazy, but
yeah.
For me, like we'll get into that plot portion of it, which I enjoyed, but I really like the fact that Santa's this real guy. He lives where? Minnesota or Canada? He lives in Canada, and he does have elves.
But he crosses the border to get his mail.
Okay. He does have elves, and but they're not your stereotypical elves. They're kind of like shorter version of elves from Lord of the Rings, maybe.
Right.
And like the whole Santa's workshop is there, and he goes and he delivers the presents, but it's this really grounded take on that. Like he does have supernatural powers, but they're not crazy.
No, they're Wolverine powers.
Yeah, like he stays young because he gives gifts, and
he can
elves
heal his gunshot wounds, and
the elves don't need to sleep as much, and they live off of sugar, but it's all played straight. And I think that's what I liked about it was we've seen a lot of takes on Santa Claus in the world, and I found this to be one that felt fresh and brand new to me. I really, the whole thing of the military hiring because he has this workforce that's unbelievable, and they work pretty much for free.
There's a lot of commentary here on capitalism, and
is there? I mean, yeah, I guess.
I mean, there is, but like just the government sucking fun and out of something that
what was interesting. I felt like the military was nice. Like I thought that the military was going to come in and just fuck everything up, right?
Well, I mean, they didn't, right?
They didn't, right? They were kind to the workers, the elves. Yeah. They didn't mistreat them or treat them poorly. They talked with them and asked them questions about their lives and, learned about them. Like it wasn't this like you think of the military leaders in movies, they're always like strong. I think of the villain in Shape of Water. Like that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. This guy's going to come in and rustle feathers, but they're really nice. And then when like the shootout starts at the end of the movie, they make sure first and foremost that all the elves are safe, right? And I just really appreciated that goodness out of them, which I didn't expect. That the large portion of the cast are good people, and doing good things.
Well, and that's and so begrudgingly, Kris Kringle takes this contract because he can't afford to keep the factory open because the Christmas spirit has been so poor in the years past.
Well, he hasn't. They've got a weird contract. So the government actually sort of subsidizes, if that's the right word, but they pay for the antics of Christmas so that Kris Kringle could do Christmas. And yet the kids are so bad that he's not having to make as many toys, and therefore he's not getting paid as much. And so that's why he takes on this military contract.
Yeah, there's commentary about economics and how the military can make our lives better. But I just like the scene where Mel Gibson has to deliver the news to the elves, and he tears up, and like there's a couple scenes where Mel Gibson, man, gives it a full go, which
He gets to do a lot too.
he does, and
It's like he gets to be stoic and sad and worried and
grumpy and
angry later.
Yeah.
He gets quite angry and dangerous, and so he does put in a really good performance.
well, and so like Mel Gibson is one of the better actors of his generation, and he did himself in the late 90s, early 2000s with all his antics, but I really like that he's able to make movies like this now that are low budget. I mean, this is not low budget, but it's a moderate budget.
Right. He's not. Nobody puts him on the poster much anymore.
No, right. And he gets to deliver performances like this, where the scene in the workshop where he's telling the elves that, hey, you guys have busted your ass, and I'm sorry that it's come to this, but we have to take this contract. And he tears up and he kind of gets choked up a bit, and I'm like, man, this is a good fucking performance from Santa Claus, man. And then you see him in different light, like in the beginning of the movie where he goes to the bar and he talks to the guy who's trying to pick up the waitress, but the guy's married and has kids and he's a truck driver. And he's just kind of telling him all about his life. And he's like, hey, if you live now, you can make it home by Christmas. It's just subtle, like little confident performances and scenes like that made me believe in this film because I knew Mel Gibson wasn't phoning it in. I've seen Mel Gibson phone it in. You've seen it. There's just been films that exist now where Mel Gibson was just in it to be in it. And I really feel like early on in this film, you get full Mel Gibson, the dedicated actor. And then everything else kind of just falls into place, right? Then we meet Mrs. Claus, Ruth, and we meet everybody. We meet Walter Goggins. I did have gripes about some of the character choices in this film, especially when it comes to the bratty little kid.
What do you mean? That kid was.
I just felt like we didn't need
hateful.
him.
I wanted to.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's fine. He's fine being a dick, but
yeah.
I felt like we
didn't need him, but he was damn entertaining to me.
Yeah, I mean, right. He's very mob boss esque. He's a little
shit,
12-year-old,
and then
right.
he even has him in his phone. This assassin, the fact this assassin, this killer, deadly assassin, is being bossed around by a kid was part of the entertainment for me.
Yeah, sure.
I agree that maybe he doesn't you could probably make this movie without him, but it added something to it. His performance added something to the movie for me. So I think it was a good addition.
Yeah. I mean, you take, so we learn Walter Goggins got spurned by Santa, as a kid, and that's kind of fueled his hatred. And he's been on the hunt, that we learn. He's been on the hunt all of his life for, Santa Claus.
He's collecting Santa-made gifts.
Right.
One thing I like, too, about this movie is the way it lays out this world's reality and the world building of this Santa without telling you, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of figure it out through context.
Well, and it's little clues.
Santa.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not there's no exposition dump at any point where
Right.
you're like, this is what's going on, other than maybe the point when the contract is up and the government is in his living room. But other than that, I feel like it lets you explore the world and learn about it in just kind of through the course of watching.
Yeah, and you get those little clues, so Walter Goggins is buying a baseball bat from a guy, and the entire time you're thinking, oh, this guy doesn't want to take Goggins off for the bat. Oh, he's just going to beat him to death. And we never learn if he did or didn't. He just ends up with the bat. But on the bottom of the bat or the end of the bat, it says, made in Santa's workshop, whatever it says. But it's like a little plaque on the bat. And I thought that was cool. And like Walter Goggins carries around a little miniature car, police car that he was given by Santa. It was the last gift that he got from Santa. And on the bottom of it, his little plaque says made in Santa's workshop. It's just the film, and it's very, the color palettes for this film are very dull, other than like Santa's truck. But it's a beat up old red truck.
His truck.
Right.
He owns a truck.
We never get we don't really get a look at Santa's sleigh. We don't get a look at really.
You see the reindeer a little bit.
You do see the reindeer, but we don't get a look at like Santa in his traditional like robe outfit. But all the colors, it's very, most of the film is very muted and darker. And I thought it serves it well, is because the mood in this film is very dark pretty much all the way through up until the end. And I thought that was a unique kind of choice that these filmmakers made to saturate their film in these darker palettes and allow.
Yeah, the workshop is very industrial.
Yes,
it's
right.
not colorful with snow and.
No,
like,
right.
I wouldn't even say that the elves have Christmas spirit.
No.
They're just doing a job.
Well, they're numbered, right?
Right.
The elves have numbers instead of names, is because they're just there to do the job.
I don't think all the elves have numbers, just the leaders, because there was only 7, right? And 7 was the 7th leader of the elves.
And he said we don't recycle numbers because that's disrespectful.
Right. So I think there's others. I don't know if the others have names, but they don't. I don't think they have numbers. Not that it honestly matters, but that's just what I picked up from the.
All right. So, what did you think of Walter Goggins here in this movie?
He was appropriately evil. I don't know that he did much that I haven't seen before. Like, it's a pretty good evil performance. I didn't hate him. I hated the kid a lot more. Like, I wanted to see the kid get it. Whereas I found Walter Goggins' character to be sort of someone you kind of root for a little bit. There's something relatable about him, about him hating this little kid that's bossing him around. And there was part of me that was hoping that he was just going to turn on the kid and kill the kid, which is rough to say. But when you see this kid's face,
very punchable face.
It's very punchable. I would go to jail punching his face. It wouldn't be good.
I mean, we learn how, but see, like the filmmakers had a chance to really cement this kid as evil, right? When he hired Goggins to kidnap the winner of the science fair or whatever it was, that he got second place.
That got me. I loved that. It really is a great little piece of character development. Like, this kid, he's going to his thing. He's won the last 3 years or whatever, and he comes in second place to this little girl. And so he hires a hitman to abduct the little girl and then threatens to shock her with a car battery unless she turns down her win.
See, like, to me,
what an asshole.
Right, yes, a very, very asshole thing to do. But, like, I was, like, kind of hoping that he was going to fucking shock the shit out of that girl to, like, cement his place as the mob boss, And he lets her go, and then there's an exchange between Goggins and the girl when he's taking her home. And he's like, hey, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill your mom and your daddy. And then he's like, hey, do you have a dog? And she's like, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to kill your dog,
you say
too.
No? Like, no, I don't have a dog. I don't have 2 brothers and sisters. I don't have a fish named Terry.
Actually, don't have any parents. I live by myself.
Yeah, this is my apartment. I'm a loner.
I felt I was kind of let down in that aspect, is because we only really then see the kid turn actual homicidal at the end where he's going to drug his grandmother.
Man, he tries to kill his grandma.
He would have killed an elephant with all that fentanyl.
Right.
And fucking
What?
Santa comes in and drinks. It was like,
Yeah, and you're like, oh, shit. Like, he could just drink fentanyl?
well, I mean, that motherfucker
It
survived.
didn't even phase him.
Right. The entire film to me is just it's brisk. Like we're talking about hour 45, and there's nothing here that you're just like, oh, I could do without that, or I could do without this, or they didn't need to put that in. My minor gripe with the kid character aside, he at least serves a purpose in the film. But like there's nothing here that you're just like, oh yeah, this is bloat, or no, this is unneeded. Every interaction between Mel Gibson and Marianne Jean-Baptiste is like emotionally satisfying, right?
Yeah, it's they're a believable couple.
She's his compass.
Yeah.
And
he's a grumpy old man, but he has
Right.
this soft spot for this woman who just kind of
Right.
melts his heart. I loved it. I mean, it's their
And
relationship's to me the highlight of the movie.
And I loved the choice to cast this black woman as Mrs. Claus to this white man's Santa. And I thought that was really unique. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a Santa Claus movie. And so I applaud that, because that is a very unique way to tell the story of Santa and Mrs. Claus. And the fact that she's a British woman, and she's just kind of this, she's just this lovable older lady. I mean, I don't know, but then she gets her satisfying ending.
That man from about 300 yards with a handgun, incredible marksmanship.
But then
Santa couldn't hit him from 10 yards.
And I love the
Incredible.
shootout with Santa. Like he hears he's got this old communication system, right? And I thought that was cool too. That he communicates with the elves around his property. But they buzz him and it's 7. He's like, oh, we're under attack or whatever. And he immediately goes to like badass mode, jumps down, gets the box out from under the bed, flips the lid up, and you see two handguns in it. And Mrs. Claus is helping him load up the bullets. And then we see him just come out of nowhere in the snow. And Walter Goggins is like you said, 300 yards away, or wherever it was.
Even longer, to be honest. He's a good ways away.
And he goes, now that's enough. like a dad.
Yeah.
And I just, and like their interaction, Walter Goggins, and this is their first interaction that we've gotten of them in the movie. The first time they meet. And it's in this kind of open space in the snow. And Walter Goggins has this like kind of like guttural but melodic Fatman.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but it's oddly fitting. I enjoyed the showdown. And then, Walter Goggins gets the better of Mel Gibson Santa.
Man, when he shot Santa in the face, I was like, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
I did not see that coming.
Right. It was because, Santa has the upper hand for most of the fight.
And the movie is grounded in a way where I thought, oh, Santa's dead. Like, I bought it. I thought they killed him.
No, but they introduced, so like the breadcrumbs, right? So he, when the Christmas before, when he's delivering the toys and he gets shot with the buckshot or not the buckshot, the birdshot, from delivering a toy to somebody. And he comes home that morning and he's in the bathroom. We see him. He's got his shirt off and he's like pouring alcohol on his gun wound in his stomach. And then he goes and climbs into bed with Mrs. Claus, and she's like, "How did it go?" And he's like, "Well, made it through another night or whatever." But he goes, "Yeah, I got popped by so and so going delivering the tour," whatever he said. And she says something like, "Oh, is it gonna be okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It'll heal like it always does," or whatever he said. Like little breadcrumbs like that. And then that's when he gets shot in the face, you're like, "Oh, but he healed himself from a previous."
Yeah, but he got shot in the face. There's a difference between, I got bird shot, to
Right.
I got shot but 2 feet away in the face.
Well, in the eyeball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you're right. It is a regular man would not have survived. But I mean, and everybody comes out to see him after Mrs. Claus, kills Goggins, and they're all crouched around him, and then it kind of fades to black, and we go back to the little shit. And he's trying to fentanyl his grandmother,
Man,
because
what an evil
she's
little
onto
man.
him.
Because she starts noticing who he's been
paying,
forging her signature on
Yeah.
checks and paying the assassin and just buying whatever he wants, and she starts to figure out that he's doing it, or at least somebody's doing it.
Yeah, it's so and that's when we get angry Santa, and it's such a good, Mrs. Claus comes in and you're like, "Oh shit, here he comes." And he comes walking in with a cane and a limp, and he's got bandage around his face. And then Mrs. Claus takes the bandage off his face, and he's like, "Look me in my eye. If you
Just
ever
one single eye.
if you ever if your grandmother was even breathed on wrong, I'm gonna come and kill you." And it's just it's great. It's a satisfying ending, and you're not left wanting anything. And I thought that's a really good sign for the overall storytelling here, is that you can go down the list and be like, "Yep, check that box. Yep, check that box. Oh, this was good. Check that box." And I just think it's one of the better overall Christmas films. I've seen it.
That's a
in
taller
while.
thing for me than I'm willing to get behind, but
Well, I mean, you just think about the story that's being told here, along with the grounded performances from everybody. I mean, yeah, it's not as cheery as your typical Christmas film.
no,
but
once you say Christmas movie, you're bringing in a whole hell of a lot of movies. That's my only objection, is there's a lot of movies now when you say that. Now, if you say, "Hey, I think this is the best Violent Santa movie," I like it more than Violent Night.
okay.
We'll see if next week I like it more than Santa Sleigh. Probably not, because Santa Sleigh is a masterpiece from what I remember. But I think of the R-rated Violent Santa movies where Santa is supernatural and he has to fight some bitches. I think it's the best one I've seen, because it's more than just the blood and guts, right? Like in Violent Night, it's a blood and guts fest. It doesn't quite have the humanity that this movie does.
Right.
And while I like Violent Night, I think it's really fun. I think this is a better movie.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you now.
Okay.
Your Mel Gibson Rushmore.
As far as films,
Yeah. So you can lump it all in together. Director or actor.
well, I mean, Braveheart would have to be on there.
Okay. Director or actor.
Yes. Signs,
Okay.
What Women Want.
Okay.
What else has this dude done?
I mean, you're only forgetting two of the biggest franchises he's participated in.
Well, I'm not. big in Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
And what's the other franchise?
Mad Max.
No, not big. Like the best Mad Max movie, he wasn't even in.
All right.
I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting that he was in that I really liked because he's been in so much. You start yours. I'll find something here.
All
I
right.
have to go back a bit. 'Cause
So
most of this new stuff is
Braveheart.
shit. Right, Braveheart. I think is the one we can agree on.
Yep. Braveheart. I'm gonna go with Martin Riggs, Lethal Weapon. I just feel like that really put him on the map, and he was just so zany in those films. I really enjoyed it. Let's see.
I got my other one, my fourth one.
While I liked, I love Signs, the movie Signs. I don't necessarily put that performance of his up on a Rushmore.
Like if I had to put one movie, I'd put Braveheart. If I had to put two, I'd put Signs and Braveheart.
And that's fair. That's a fair assessment of Mel Gibson. I just and while it is the only movie other than this is a movie where he's very subdued here. So before this, I think I'd said it on your other podcast is that, I had never seen Mel Gibson give the type of performance that he gives in Signs in any other movie. Well, now, and I wasn't necessarily thinking of Fat Man here, but now having watched it again, I think you can kind of put it, side by side as they're very similar type performances.
One is kind of legendary. It's your opinion. Go ahead.
I'm gonna.
Keep
all
going.
right. So we've got Braveheart,
Lethal Weapon and Braveheart.
Lethal Weapon. I'm gonna go ahead and put Santa Claus, Kris Kringle, up on that Rushmore.
You're gonna put this movie on there.
I'm gonna put Fat Man up on that Rushmore.
All right.
And
so, is that 3 or wasn't that 4? Okay.
Well, we can put Apocalypto.
I've never seen that, but okay.
Up there.
My fourth actually is going to be Maverick. Really good movie.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'd forgotten about that movie.
Yeah. So, what did I say? Braveheart.
Yeah.
Signs, Maverick.
Braveheart, Signs, Maverick. You said one other one.
Yeah.
Braveheart, Signs, Maverick.
What Women Want. Yeah.
What Women Want. That's right. I liked him in that movie too.
What Women Want's a good ass movie.
It is a good ass movie.
I would think honorable mention maybe Ransom. Ransom's pretty good.
Oh, what's the other one? No,
We Were Soldiers is pretty good.
No, is it Collateral? No, Collateral Damage.
Collateral Damage. Well, Collateral is Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise,
right? But I thought Mel Gibson had another one.
Collateral Damage, I want to say, is Arnold.
Oh, maybe it is. What's the one where Patrick Stewart is the bad guy?
He's never been a bad guy ever.
Yes, he is. I promise you.
I remember what movie. This is that damn Space Vampires movie. I think Conspiracy Theory, baby.
Conspiracy Theory. Yes,
Yeah.
That's it. I liked Mel Gibson in that movie too. But anyways, okay.
I think they should make a new Conspiracy Theory because conspiracy theories are more prevalent in the zeitgeist now, like the mind, like with QAnon and stuff and all that stupid horse shit. I think they could make a new one.
Put Mel Gibson in that one too.
Why not? Make it.
He could be the villain. He could be the villain in that movie. That would be cool.
Oh, he could raid the Capitol.
Give it a couple years. There's going to be a movie made about that. So.
Oh, there's going to be, yes, absolutely.
And it's going to be the most inaccurate thing ever told. But
depending on who's making it, but
right, true.
There are going to be different viewpoints.
All right, so Jeff, do you recommend Fat Man?
Yeah, it was really fun. Probably the best movie we'll watch this month. I can't remember what else is on the list, but my two movies are not going to be the best.
Well,
but yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Okay,
and,
good.
and worth your time. And if you want an R-rated Christmas movie that still has some heart and puts you in the spirit of things, this is the one to watch.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Although Anna and the Apocalypse could be a sleeper for me, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah.
I've read good things, but I too am going to recommend this. It is a off your radar film. It's on Peacock. We both watch it on Peacock right now, and you can't really go wrong. I mean, there's F-bombs but there's not really any big gory stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, the shootout is almost 90s in its violence levels. If my son told me he watched it at 13, I'd be like, oh, okay. Don't tell your mom. Don't get us both in trouble.
Right, but
it wasn't
crazy
or anything.
Like there's scenes where they could have gone full bore and they didn't. And so I think it's R-rated, but
it's not a hard R.
It's not a hard R, right?
It's one F-bomb short of, like if they only did one F-bomb, I think it sit happily at PG-13.
There's one scene where Walter Goggins
some murders.
Yeah,
what's he do?
He murders a bunch of people in the beginning. Goggins does, but there's one scene where I think Walter Goggins gets off the phone and he's like, "You dumb motherfucker," and he just says it so poignantly and just like so direct, and it's kind of jarring the way he says it. You're like,
he's probably talking about that kid too.
It's just that kind of that caught me off guard. I was like, "Whoa, I got kind of offended."
Well, you got offended,
motherfucker. But no, I recommend it. It's a good fucking movie. It might make an appearance on the top movies of the year. I don't know. But what I do know is that we got to give a shout out to the music again.
Yeah.
And the music this month is brought to you by the alt hip hop New York City based band Oxymorons with their song Moon Chasers. And you can hit the show notes, get all their links to their social media accounts. They're doing big things. You want to like, follow, and subscribe. And if you want to follow the podcast on all your favorite social media platforms, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're right here on YouTube at Movie Draft House. Hit the subscribe button when it pops up so you don't miss any future content right here on the podcast. Podcast releases weekly every Thursday, so don't miss out. And if you want to follow Jeff on Twitter and tell him, hey man, that New Year's Eve film doesn't fit the theme, you can find him at Podcast by Jeff.
So what you'd be doing is acknowledging what I said when I drafted it. But I felt that it's...
You don't have to defend your pick to me.
I should, because I gave you so much shit about your non-Western Western. But at least I'm self-aware, I guess, is the difference. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with Mark and tell him, hey man, Santa Sleigh is going to knock your socks off and you're going to love it, you can do that on Twitter at I Heard You Liked. You could also check out my other podcast, Chronologically, where we're getting close to wrapping up our third season, and we're going to start announcing what's coming next for Chronologically. Find that wherever you get your podcast.
Jeff, any words of wisdom?
Not one, but I might have one next week because Santa Sleigh is going to be the shit. I hope you have to pay for it. Like, actually find it and rent it.
That is the worst thing you could ever say to me.
You're lucky I didn't pick Thanksgiving.
There's a new horror movie out called Thanksgiving.
I want to watch it. I hear it's good.
It's got McDreamy in it.
But if you ever want to watch something interesting, watch Thanksgiving. It's about a killer turkey. It's awesome. Anyway, we're out of here. We'll see you next week as we watch Bill Goldberg in Santa Sleigh.